Everybody, and thanks for tuning in to the Run to the Hills podcast. This is episode 91, sponsored by Chia Charge. Chia Charge have been fueling adventures with real food made with real ingredients since 2012. Go and check them out at www.chiacharge.co.uk.
One take wonder. And you went off the script. I got nervous. Oh my God, he's going to spit now.
Yeah, I did. I realised myself.
91 episodes in, and Gary still gets all nervous if he has to do these stuff.
I don't like it, but we got through it, Eddie. We got through it. Talking about getting through it, how are you getting through it?
We're both a little bit, I think you're more weary than I am today. But we're both a little bit weary. It's got to bring your energy, man. Let me tell you, we've got some sad news in the Sutton household.
Take a moment.
Take a moment, everyone. The mouse is gone. It was his own fault in the end. He kept returning to the crime scene, looking for more bars. He started eating the labels off the olive oil bottles in desperation to think, where are those Chia Charge bars? Why?
Got greedy.
He got greedy. He got one step too greedy. And so in went the little packet of delicious mouse food.
I don't want to know.
His men happily, and he ate the whole thing. I came down in the morning, and it was like a murder scene. It was quick, it was painless, and hopefully now my Chia Charge bars will be safe. Rest in peace, Mouse. You did
till the next one. He's just going to pass his
legacy
on
till his little nest of friends comes. But we all learnt an important lesson that we do not leave bars under the sink. And they have found a new place, which I'm not going to tell anyone in case anyone has a direct line.
A mouse hotline.
I've been swifting my ass off. I've actually got a little bit of tendonitis in both my wrists from holding on to the handlebars like that. And I put some tri-bars on my bike, but I haven't really been using them. I've just been using the top of them to sort of lean back and stretch my back out a bit. So my poor wrists, I have to take my watch off now every once in a while because my wrists get really sore.
I don't have a watch on when I'm swifting. I don't like it.
Oh, yeah, but then it screws your heart rate data for Garmin, didn't it?
I don't know, I've got my chest strap.
Well, I've got mine on then, but then there's a big gap on my Garmin heart rate if I take it off. It's obviously not. Anyway, dull. I rode quite a lot out. Last week was beautiful. So I think I did 3 quite long rides, 2 or 3. A couple of hours, 3 hours. There's a lovely valley called the Valley Vert, which is, I would say it was kind of like Lake District-y, probably like the hills, kind of hills. And it's beautiful and it's quiet. But in order to get there, you have to ride the road of death, which there's 2 roads up the valley, 2 valleys to Morzine. So all the traffic, especially if you go at 8:30 in the morning, goes along really narrow and goes, oh, I'm not good at it. My mate's so good at it. She is chitter-chattering away. She goes, oh, we'll go to a press on the outside, and there's Laura. I'm like, oh my God, there's a car. Oh my God, there's a car. And it's slightly downhill, so you're going quite fast. I just am useless. I am useless at fast-moving traffic. I just don't like it. I don't like it anyway.
Oh, wait.
We had some nice running. I did a couple of good. I didn't do quite as much hard Zwifting because I'd done so much riding. But I did 1 Zwift race, which Gary, I was first woman.
Ooh,
and
awesome.
Last overall.
Oh.
So I was the only woman in the race. I totally got dropped at the start. Everybody must have. I thought I was spinning quite fast, but I think I got to start fast. I've got to start before. And before I knew it, it was 5 meters. You know the gap? It says close the gap, 5 meters. I was like, no, guys, wait, guys, you've gone. So,
oh goodness, I've never done a race.
Shall I just quit because you can't catch up by yourself. There's unless I pushed 800 watts. And then I was like, no. Of course. So I rode for 40 minutes by myself. I could see there were 2 people behind me. So in the end, I kind of waited for them. And then we rode together. And then they just dropped me in the last. I can't push 450 watts. I can't. I can't. I'm about 300.
Had you gone into the wrong category race, or you thought?
No,
you were...
I went low, Gary.
Goodness me. I'm
I
definitely not
dropped
going to
down
race.
because I'm pretty sure I should be B category. So I was like, I'll do a C category, then I won't get dropped. But I just got dropped. So I found this Swift racing workouts, which basically is just all about absolutely destroying yourself for a minute.
Yeah.
And then you've got to hold the power. So I did that this morning. But it's good because it's like going uphill. At the start of all my races here, they all start uphill and they're absolutely horrendous and you think you're going to die. But then it does calm down. So I'm kind of thinking that's kind of good. So I enjoyed it. The kids, I put the turbo outside. This is Sunday. And Bryn was doing a barbecue at the same time as I was doing this race. And the kids were they kept coming over going, Mum, you're 19th of 19. Come on. They were like, yeah, it's really good. And they'd ask me questions and I'd be like, can't speak.
God speak, no way.
Anyway, I did a little bit of back to running as well. The physio said.
I saw it.
The physio said, it's time. I managed to get my knee to wall to 10.5 centimeters. So the advisory knee to wall is like 10 to 12. My other leg's now got to 13.5 because it's the calf on it is about this big.
Yeah.
180 calf raises. And when I started with my physio on my bad ankle, it was 2 centimeters. That's how bad it was. So now it's 10.5 centimeters. So she said, okay. Do you want me to write you a back to run program? She said. And I was like, no, it's okay. I got it.
Okay. I know somebody who can do that.
I know somebody who can do that. And if they can't, they really shouldn't be doing their job. So I did some 15 seconds. She said flat. Oh, this is a bit tricky. Yeah. And it's tricky because our trail is like rocky, but I've tried. So I did some 15 seconds, fine. 30 seconds. Anyone that's come back from injury, it's really hard to know if it hurts or not because all your mind is focusing on that where it was sore. And so everything is like sore. Does it hurt? You can't think about it. It's not an enjoyable process. So I did 15 seconds. So every other day I've been running 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute. And then but I'm not a slave to the timing because of where our track is, where we do take the dogs out. So if it's gone uphill, no running, because obviously that's quite a lot of pressure on the old Achilles. But if it's a nice bit of flat, I'll be like, oh, I can run to that tree.
Cool.
Got up to 4 by 5 minutes. Oh, but Gary, I feel a bit out of shape. Well, I'm like, I expected to come back and be like, feel great,
4 by 5 minutes. So that's a decent.
So that, and then yesterday I had to drive middle child. I was doing the car lifts up for they do this geography field trip up the mountain every Monday. So it was my turn, 9 stinky boys in my van, up to 2,200 meters, I think it's a 4 years. And I mean, driving the van was quite a workout there's quite a lot of weight to drive right up. It's about 1,000 meters up these
second gear,
lot of second gear and a lot of burning when we with a lot of French tunes being played really loudly and me trying not thinking, oh my God, I've got all these people with kids in the van. Oh my God, around all these hairpins. Anyway, then up there, there's a golf course randomly and all the piste and stuff and some nice tracks. So I was like, right, I'm not going to look at my watch. I'm just going to go out for an hour and I'm going to walk anything uphill and anything a bit dodgy underfoot and anything a little bit flat, I'm going to try and run. So I did that. It all was fine, but oh my gosh, I felt like I did 1 10-minute block of running, Carrie. And I was running like, I'm not joking, 11-minute mile pace. And I was like, feels really hard. I'm hoping it was the altitude.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah, you've gone up.
It's all going to come back really quickly. And so, but no, I also did my biggest ever squats. So I've had a huge week, really. Squatted 80 kilograms.
Oh,
that's pretty big. That's
good, yeah.
Body weight in a bit.
Person weight, yeah.
So that was 5, and that was 5 lots of 5 reps. And I'm the
Is
only
that on like
one
a rack? You've got a
Yeah, it's on the Smith machine.
Cool.
Because I'm by myself in the gym, there's literally no one ever in the gym when I go. So I would be very nervous about doing heavy weights on a bar that I could then fall backwards on. Anyway, I'm just showing off about my squats really because I can't talk about anything else. And what other lovely thing we did? We've got a lot of busy weekends coming up, but the weather, oh my God, we've had this heat wave. Anybody reads the newspapers, France has been in this like big heat wave, 28 to 30 degrees most days.
Man, that sounds lovely.
Gary, working on my tan. So we had a free Sunday, very unusual in the Sutton household. So I was like, right, we've got around us is sort of like 3,000 meter climbs. And one day a year, everybody tries to do all three in a day, but they're quite far apart as well. Not far apart. They're sort of like, well, two are actually really close. You couldn't come down one and start up the other one. But the third one is about 3K away. Anyway, so I've said to the kids, we're going to do these 3 peaks this year. Not all at once. Not quite ready for that. So we went up our nearest one, Hairdressing it's called. And it was pretty hot. But the first, probably like... the first half is all in the trees, like classic hairpin woodbins. Set off, absolutely dreamy. We're so good at this. Kids are amazing. They're loving it. In all the trees, up and down. Bryn and I, absolutely, my heart rate. I was like, oh my God, I keep on with the kids. Anyway, we got to, it then opens up into this big meadow where there's water trough. Thank God, because we've drunk all the water. So we have a pause. There's some old French ladies that have already probably done it 4 times already. That one. They were just going down. Dogs have already peaked, go straight in the trough because they're so hot. Yes. Refill, it's about 11:45. People are starting to whine about lunch and stuff. Like, right, let's go up. It's really open now. It's like this huge green peak. Let's go up into the trees and have our picnic, and then we'll climb the second half, high sugar. Summit. Yes. So we got under the trees. I mean, the kids ate everything. I was like, just sleep. Can you sleep? Just no. I was going to sit. No. Okay. Is there any, can I have nothing left. I'll just have that. Is that twig? No. Okay.
Go on.
We don't have much. Anyway, we then restarted and it is very steep. I just had a look on Strava so I could explain to you that it's about 45% in some places. We're talking like when you stop, you're literally like,
I love that. So you're going to roll back.
Yeah, it feels like that. So poor Evie. So Evie's 6. She's climbed 600, 700 meters, and it's 4K up with just under 1,000 meters. It's really, really steep. And she's like, I've got no grip. I look down. She's got these like gym plimsolls on. They're so corny. But I said, let's see the grip. There's literally nothing left on these poor trainers. Mum, can I use your poles? And I was like, oh, I'm not trying to get up this with my poles. It's so steep. And in my head, I was like, give it to your child. Give the poles to your 6-year-old.
Reluctantly.
You can have my poles. Anyway, with about 100 meters to go, but we still can't see the summit, sort of round the corner. Evie had said, I can't do it. Sat down. I'm not doing it, Mum.
Oh, bless her.
I was like, Evie, you're so close. You've got to get to the top. I'm not doing it. The tears started. Nothing was working. I was like, Eves, come on. You cannot look at this. You can see this mountain from your classroom. You will just call yourself a quitter if you know you never got to the top. I could hear myself saying this, thinking this is terrible. And it was one of those moments when I was like, I know you can do it. The weather's fine. It's not like stormy. It's not exposed. You can do this, and it's only like 5 more minutes. All you got to do. Anyway, she was not happy. But it was quite good because she got in a huge strop and then like ran on up at the top. We got to the top, and it's not scrambly. It's not, but the last bit you do go along, and then on either side of this cross is just sheer cliffs. And even the boys who were little bit older were like, oh my God.
Hanging on to the cross.
And literally like, you're looking down. So we got there, and then we made a very quick, no snacks. Now I had images of us, having our picnic at the top, but I've just forgotten. I've done it. I must have done it like 10 times by myself, but I had totally forgotten how steep it was because I've always just sort of not really thought about, just gone up, been looking at heart rate or something boring. Anyway, I felt, and then of course you come down 4K.
45 degrees.
I took at my knees. Oh my God. Bryn and I were ruined. And because it takes that bit longer with kids, they like to stop and there's a lot of chat. And so it was a 3-hour moving trip, but we were out for about 4.5 hours and it was 30 degrees in the van we got back. Bryn and I were ruined. I was like, my God, I can't believe last summer I used to do that. And then like 2 other climbs, can't even do that. Anyway, super proud of the family, especially the youngest one, for doing that.
Sounds wonderful.
You can sit in their classroom and look at that peak and go,
been there.
Done that, mate. Hashtag done that, mate. So it was a little bit of excitement. Right, come on, let's get down to real business now. You dying to tell me all about.
Super tired. Well, before that, I wasn't too sure if I was going to do my workouts, but I did them because this is supposed to be not a race. So I did my 20-minute trail threshold. That was good. And I did some 400s too. My battery on my heart rate strap had conked out, so I had to rely on my wrist heart rate, which I've always been a bit really skeptical of, but it performed okay on those runs. So yeah, I did that 20-minute trails and the 400 on the trails too. So they were nowhere near the kind of paces, but definitely the effort was there. That was good. Elevation for the week, 13,000 feet, but it was quite an easy week because I think 11,000 feet of that was made up at the Old County Tops fell race. And I looked on the description, and although it's not actually officially classed as a Class A fell race, but they do mention it in the description. It's of that kind of nature. So it's roughly like 35 miles, 11,000 feet. And it takes you up Helvellyn, Scafell Pike, and the Old Man of Coniston. And it was another good day. We had a PB, which was nice. I think looking at my time, last time we did 2019 was about 9 hours and 90 minutes. And we just scraped under 9 hours. That was good. And it was really good at the end, actually, because both of us, for some reason, we thought it'd be nice to be under 9 hours. And it was getting quite tight. So we had to run when maybe there was always at one point, I suppose, where one person didn't want to push. So we had to keep moving, and that was good. And we did it. We just snuck in under 9 hours. But yeah, Neil had a massive shoe disaster. He coming off Helvellyn, he was like, oh, my shoes were loose. And he wasn't really sure what it was. And he looked down on his footwear and like the Solomon lacing system. It's not just kind of regular laces. Anyway, that had totally perished. I don't think he'd been rinsing his footwear after a long days on the fells.
Classic.
So the bog acid had eaten away at his laces. But wow, one of the marshals had I don't know what was going in the back of his van, but he produced this electrical cable from nowhere. So we relaced his shoes up. When he went
to start his van, he went, oh no, I did need that cable.
His jump leads had chopped his jump leads up. But yeah, oh my goodness, it saved his race. You know, the gaffer tape wasn't sticking because his footwear was so... I couldn't just put regular laces in there. And this electrical tape, just nailed it. And so he had another 20 miles to go on this little makeshift lacing system. And he did it. He never mentioned it once, actually. Loads of rain on the course to build up beforehand. So the section between Helvellyn and Scafell Pike, it was just relentless. Just every footstep felt like you were going 6 inches, at least 6 inches underwater. That wasn't, obviously, there was some bits which were hard ground, but wow, that was hard going. Scafell Pike summit was visibility maybe down to about 20 meters, so that wasn't great. And then that made the descent off Scafell pretty tricky because A, we didn't know where we were going anyway, and B, we followed some other people who had forgot the best way to go. So we made a right meal of coming off Scafell Pike. Totally not their fault. You know, we hadn't invested and researched the routes. So we just literally followed people off. And that was the same tale, actually, for Old Man of Coniston. We took the wrong line off there and turned. We probably added a good, between the two descents, maybe a good 10 minutes onto getting off those mountains. But yeah, all in all, you know, an awesome day. And it really is such a good event. 8 teams, which I just think adds a real good element to it. You know, you're there with your comrade. You've got to manage each other. You've got to know when someone's down and when someone's up and try and work or not push the other one too hard. The fell running community, it's just awesome. You know, they finished, we're in this field, there was a tent, it was all home cooked fare. It wasn't like
They have
sometimes
to ask you to step away from the home cooked fare.
I know I did. I excelled in the home cooked. That's where I come into my own. The end of a race. But you know, sometimes you get in races, and you know, it's like multi packs of something sweet. This was all just proper stuff all the way around. And didn't really appreciate it on the course because I was all business, just moving on. And yeah, just awesome. I really loved it. But like next year, Neil and I will be in the 100-year-old category, combined ages.
You've aged.
Yeah, I felt like I'd aged quite a lot over those 9 hours. And the people who won, I was like saying today, look, there's no point in going back if that is like an unattainable goal, if they're so far ahead of us. I didn't want to, you know. So we were, for argument's sake, I think, just 8 hours 58 or something like that. But the winners of the 100 category were just over 8 hours. So in 12 months, we've got to somehow improve. Like
laces, get the right lines off the top.
Well, yeah, maybe there's 15, 20 minutes there to be had just by better admin, but then that's still another 40 minutes of improvement.
You've done 20 minutes without thinking about it the last couple of years.
Yeah. Well, I think what we'd have to do is maybe because that's always like a build-up race to something else.
Yeah, it needs to be an A race, doesn't it? Well, you actually go out and run the route and...
But this is what we need to do also, and I can't understand why we didn't do it. I've been on Coniston this year. I've ran off Coniston this year. Been up Scarfell Pike countless times. Why didn't I at least once do the same route as the Old County Tops? I'm coming off it thinking, I'm seeing people to the left where this is exactly where we should have been. And I'm just like, why haven't I done this? Why?
And then did you think the route you took was harder? Could you see people sort of...
Well, we summited Coniston, and then it's like a small bit of like an out and back section. So you see who's coming towards you. So the people that went past us, we were probably 2 minutes ahead, and then they'd caught us up. And then when we saw them again, they were ahead of us. So whatever we were doing lost us maybe about 3 minutes. I don't know what it was. It's really fun because I think our line was quicker, but it was over rocks. So so it was a shorter line, but more technical terrain. I think that was basically what we did. But awesome, 13,000 feet. Hours of exercise was a bit lower than normal, but yeah, a pretty good long day out on the fells, and it still is one of my favourite. Oh, I made a massive mistake. I should have come on with my race t-shirt on. I've got my... I
thought you were going to say something like really serious then. I thought we were going to pause recording. Oh my God, what's he going to say?
No, but yeah, got a lovely t-shirt.
Your t-shirt is particularly offensive today. It's like
my London Marathon one. Yeah, but yeah, awesome race, and I really hope we decide to go back again next year and have another.
I hope you do too.
And what was even funny, the people that were running. Well, I know everybody really was focused on Sunderland in the playoff final on Saturday, sorry. But coincidentally, the people that we shared quite a few miles with, one of them was a Sunderland fan, and he was keeping us up to date with the goings on at Wembley. Yeah, it was awesome. So,
any That's Gary from the podcast shout outs?
No. I didn't introduce myself as Gary from the podcast.
Phil community haven't found us yet.
Well, yeah, they're Phil runners, aren't they?
Tell us the results then, as we're talking about it, because you've written them all down.
Yes, where are we at? Okay, yeah, so for the women, Jenny Rice and Catherine Slater, they took the win for the joint pairs. And we were following these ladies because they really looked like they knew what they were doing. But we just couldn't keep up with them, and we lost them and stuff. Basically, yeah. And for the men, Ricky Lightfoot and Tom Owens took the win, 7 hours and 5 minutes. And that's like...
Do you know what he said as well? Do you know what he said? Easy day. We didn't push it.
You're joking me.
No, that's what he said.
Oh, God. I didn't push
Easy
it.
day. Didn't push it. Didn't push it.
Yeah. And for the mixed, Katie and Casper cars. Sebastian took the win in 7 hours 49. So yeah, smoking fast too. So
we're talking to Katie again in a week or 2 weeks' time, all about her journey back into this great shape post-natal, but she's taking it very slowly. So if you have or are having a baby, Katie is a year and a bit since we last talked to her. Just literally we talked to her and then she had Inga the week after. So it'd be great to see how she's got herself back into beating Gary shape, basically.
Well, she's probably home by the time I finished.
Yeah, you didn't see it.
Nearly an hour and 10 minutes.
Down south, we had the North Downs Way happening. Ed Knudsen won in 6 hours 55 and Amy Jo Clark in 8 hours 06. I think it was quite a good female race. Only decided in the last 10 miles, and I think it was hot. This
week, we've been super lucky to be joined by Sophie Grant, multiple UTMB and TDS top 10 finisher, GB trail runner, hairdresser, running coach, and van life living Kiwi legend. She shares a story on how she got into running, her love for mountain trails, and her big plans for Tour De Jong at the end of the summer. Hope you enjoy our chat with Sophie. Sophie, thanks for coming on the show today. We ask all our guests, where are you, how are you, and have you been for a run today?
Thank you very much for having me. I am good. I am currently parked somewhere on the streets of London, I think in Ealing, and no, I have not been for a run today.
I think in Ealing, I love it.
I wasn't sure where you were going to say because
you've got the blind on. I thought you were going to go, I lit this up. And there is
no. We've been in London for a couple of weeks now, predominantly in the campsite in Crystal Palace, but we've definitely been slumming it for the last few nights, mooching around. There's a few spots that we like to kind of wild camp in London.
Excellent.
Honestly, there's some beautiful spots. Last night we were out by Petersham Nurseries, so you're like on the river. It's really quiet. It's basically paddocks around you. Very pretty.
That sounds awesome. And I've never camped in London, so you said there's a campsite in Crystal Palace.
There is, right in the park.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
I like Crystal Palace. My sisters live near there and run around the dinosaurs. It's quite nice little hilly. It's a little secret hilly park, isn't it?
It is. There's some good links you can do as well around Crystal Palace. It's definitely a lot nicer than it used to be as well.
I like the canal life. I ran from Slough to Paddington, and as you got around Paddington, the little canal boats and all the little cafes and the community down there, it was absolutely awesome. It was really good.
So let's talk a little bit about we're going to talk more about van life. Otherwise, we're going to end up with half the podcast about living the van. We will, if you're interested in that, we are going to come back into that. But let's talk a little bit about running, your running journey, how you find yourself to be a La Sportiva sponsored athlete. Have you run all your life? Were you born in trainers? Where did it talk us from the beginning?
I was definitely not born in trainers. And in fact, my mum used to have to write me sick notes every time the school cross country was on.
Stop it.
It wasn't that I didn't like sport. I just wasn't that. I certainly wasn't keen on running. I played a lot of sport at school, like all of the, netball, volleyball, touch rugby, all of that sort of stuff. But running was just not interested at all.
Now, sensing the accent, you didn't grow up in England.
No.
Talking about, so you played a lot of different sports. When did the sick notes stop? When was mum allowed to stop writing the sick notes and you realised that you were quite good at running, or at least you enjoyed running? I
didn't start actually running until I was about 23, till I'd moved to London. So I didn't really do, I played sport at school and then moved out of home, worked, and then I moved over to the UK with my then boyfriend, now husband, George. And didn't really start running until I was older. Came to London, ate lots of crappy food, put on a lot of weight, kind of realised I needed to do something about that. And actually started running with my husband's father, so my father-in-law, because he used to run a lot. He used to do, he's done like coast to coast in New Zealand and all that sort of stuff. Okay. And so I said to him one day, I said, Roger, will you teach me how to run? And he sort of laughed at me and told me to go over to a lamppost and run back to him. He was like, well, that's it.
That's it. Awesome.
And then where did that lead to? Did you sort of like start sort of like couch to 5K sort of thing, and then realize, oh, actually, I want to do a race? I bet George was like, okay, let's go and do a race. We can find a race.
So do you know what? I'm really, really grateful that I had George's dad in those sort of like formative years. So we used to run together 5 days a week.
Wow, with your father-in-law?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He's a very tolerant man, because I would also be very grumpy. Like, I'd wake up in the morning, it'd be like 6 o'clock in the morning. George would have pissed me off. I would get up and I'd go out and I'd literally spend an hour running, bitching and moaning about George, and he'd sort of drop me off at home. But it really it helped to create that habit. You know, like I think without that, it probably wouldn't have evolved in the way that it did. But while George was supportive of it at that point, it wasn't such a driving force in our life. I had a friend who challenged me to racing a 10K, and we had 100 pounds on it that she was going to beat me.
Wow.
And I was like, absolutely not. You are not going to beat me. And then it kind of like, I realized that I enjoyed doing it. It was quiet time for me. And it meant that I could also go and do stuff, you know, like the first kind of, I look back now and I'm like, this was quite punchy actually, to think that I could do this. What I wanted to do was I wanted to qualify for New York Marathon. And I mean, that was like 3:23, the qualifying time.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
And I'd like never run a marathon before. I was like, I want to run London, Paris, New York, like every good designer back when I used to care about clothes. And so I ran London in like 3:26. No, Paris in 3:26, London in 3:23:47. I was 47 seconds off. Oh. And then we actually flew to New York for me to run in a half marathon, and I needed to run 1:31, and I ran 1:31:10.
But were you formally training for like a marathon or a half marathon, or were you just rocking up and hoping for the best, I suppose?
I mean, I was running a lot, but I wasn't following a training plan. I was just doing lots of easy running. And this was back before I kind of knew anything about it. I was just trying to run everything a bit harder, and so just never really got much faster. In the end, George bought me a place in the New York Marathon because I couldn't qualify.
You could all do with the George in our lives. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
No, he is definitely a keeper.
Yeah.
And then then you've done some road marathons. How did you sort of venture onto the trails?
So again, this was a lot of this was George's dad and then George. So George's dad always used to tell me these stories about these ridiculous things that people were off doing, you know, like running through the desert or like running for 3 days. And like, I'm the type of person, when you tell me something like that, I'm like, well, if they can do it, why can't I? So I started like reading books and all of that sort of stuff. And then George bought me a place in the Marathon des Sables for my birthday.
Wow.
So
he's got some form, hasn't he, for buying your race entry?
Yeah. Oh, he used to do it all the time. Honestly, I'd be at work and I'd just get this email being like, oh, thank you for your entry into a 50-mile race, or thank you for your entry into the... So yeah, then it was kind of, we spent 7 months training me for the Marathon des Sables.
Had you done anything like that before you went and did that?
No. I mean, like in the training for it, I did as many ultras as I could find, really.
Okay.
You know, and you were UK based, and you weren't like living the van life. Then you were UK based. Yeah,
we were based in London. We were spending every weekend trying to get out to the mountain or just to run somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, it was
George didn't buy himself an entry, he just bought you an entry.
He just bought me an entry. So George, when he was younger, had a lot of surgery on his foot. So we never really thought that he was going to be able to run, which is why we kind of do a lot of the other sports as well, is because it takes some pressure off his foot. But he's been able to do a fair amount of running in the last few years, which is really cool.
Oh, cool.
MDS, you stood on the line. What year is this? 2013. how did it go?
Well, could we rewind a bit? We're UK based. We're not like, we do have lots of sand, obviously, being in Ireland, but how would you train for such a race being based in the UK?
So we did a couple of things. George would often drive me to the second highest sand dune in Europe, which is in Wales. And I would run up and down that every, sort of second or third weekend. And he also built me a heat chamber in the garage.
Oh,
so
my goodness.
I was able to train in, 40-degree heat in Fulham in the middle of winter.
How did he build that? Basically cut all air.
Well, so we looked at doing the heat training in the chambers, and we kind of decided that, like, financially, it was probably not that different to us buying a treadmill, which then was, good to have for us anyway. And we had a garage at the time, so we bought a treadmill. He built a thermostat, because regular thermostats only go up to, 30. And so he built a thermostat that regulated these two massive patio heaters that we had. We then just kind of like sealed off part of the garage, had a fan heater. Honestly, it must have looked like we were growing weed.
I was going to say that. His door smashed in by the Met.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that really helped. And it also, we spent 7 months making sure that my kit was the lightest possible option that I could have, so that I could take as much food as possible.
And were you like modifying kit, or were you just buying the latest stuff?
The sewing machine was out. Like back then, we couldn't get light enough like windproof pants, so we made those. George even weighed the toggles on the bags and replaced loads of them because they were too heavy.
This is reminiscent of when we talked to Anna Troop and her partner Richard, and he was making recipes for scones and was adding different ingredients so that they lasted like as many days. And he'd leave them out and see George and Richard could be BFFs.
But that's how he'd pack the food, wouldn't he? He'd pack it in kind of order of perishing. It's great.
So how did the MDS go?
Oh, do you know what? I just loved it. I loved every second of it. It's one of those races that if you prepare for it well, you can go out there and sure, it's hard. It's, like hot. I mean, it got to 54 degrees, but it's just the most incredible experience to be out in that environment with, all of these other people who are just that's their dream too, is to get to that finish line. Yeah. If it didn't take so much time, I would 100% go back.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you'd like, now with so much more experience under your belt, whether you'd like to go back and tear it apart.
Yeah, I would. But, it's a big commitment time-wise and quite specialised training.
Yeah, it's a sort of like that's what you're going to do for the year, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I'd like to see you go back out there.
What's it like in the evenings, the tent life? You've got your kind of tent friends that you would follow the whole event with the same people, or? I
was really lucky. So I was running for the Australia New Zealand team, and we didn't have 8 people in our tent. There were 4 of us in our tent, so it was heaven. Everyone else is packed in like sardines, and we're we can spread out. So you are in the same tent with these people each day. But I made a bunch of friends out there. I basically, every time we'd get back into camp, and you have hours, so I would tottle off and go and find people to talk to. Some of my best friends now are from running the MDS. And I say to them, I was like, oh, I met so many people out there. And they're like, yeah, we didn't meet anyone else but our tent mates and you.
Yeah, I was wondering that, because whenever I've done multi-stage races, at the end of the day, I've just been good for nothing and just been lay down in the tent or in a village hall somewhere. But imagine you going around every tent. Hello.
Yeah, what's happening? Who can I force to be my friend in here?
Yeah. I love the idea of a multi-stage race. I think it sounds fantastic.
You'd like all the eating, Gary, definitely.
Yeah.
And then after MDS, did you then think, oh, this ultra stuff, this is I not only love this, but I'm quite good at it as well?
Yeah, I did. I kind of, even before the MDS, I ran the 85k, maybe it was 65k Trans Gran Canaria race, and I came third, and that I was just how, how, it was just completely unexpected in an environment I'd never run in before. And so then to back that up with doing well in the MDS, I was just like, maybe I'm all right at this stuff. Maybe going faster isn't, the thing for me. And I think that's kind of where the ultra stuff came from as well. It's like I realized with the road running, I either needed to start running a lot faster or go further. And kind of the options that ultra running then provided to do that is, it's endless, really.
5 times UTMB, then the TDS, multiple top 10 finishes. What is it about that part of the world that, kept you going back?
So the first time, again, I just think I have quite a lot of self-belief. And the first time I ran the UTMB, I mean, like my marathon, I expected to have it finished in a certain time. And everything went horribly wrong. And I was out there for way longer than I expected. And it was a very different race from the one I kind of had in my head, not knowing what 100 miles in the mountains was even going to be like,
Yeah.
Like I had no real reference point as to what running 100 miles was like. It was my first 100-mile race. And so I finished, and I knew that if I could get everything to go right in that race, I could get around it in under 28 hours. And then, it took me 5 years to get there, but it was just that. It was just kind of going back and honing my craft effectively on the same sort of stomping ground. And although every race is different, and certainly the UTMB, every race is very different. Every year, that first year, I think I improved by like 9 hours. And then I kind of hung around that sort of like 30, 31, 32 hour mark. And it was like, no, okay, you need just keep honing that. And then finally I did it in, I think 27:51,
Awesome.
something like that. And I was just like, oh, great. It was a bit like running a sub 3-hour marathon. It was like, oh, great. I've done that now. Now I can go do something else.
Yeah.
How did you, sorry to jump in your questions, Gary, how did that improvement come about over that 5 years? What did you do to take off, 10 hours?
Yeah. The first one was 40 hours. The first one I vomited for a good 8 hours. Couldn't hold down water. It was probably the closest George has ever come to pulling me out. Made me sit down and call my earth for like 3 hours. Still couldn't hold down anything. So dealing with that, learning, do you know what the biggest thing that I learned was to go slow. I remember the year that I ran it fast, I was running that first 10K. I mean, it's a killer, right? Like it's downhill. And everybody's running fast.
They're running so fast. And how do you keep your head about you in that first 10K? So hard.
Yeah, and I mean, it took me 5 years to do that. And really, the only reason that I did that was because I was running with Beth Pascal and Holly Rush. And I mean, like one of my friends blasted past me, and you have to really check your ego too, right? I was like, where's she? Like, and I was like, hang on, no, you're running with 2 incredibly talented runners here who are very good and very fit and very fast. If they are not running faster, you do not need to be running faster either.
Yeah.
And it pays dividends, it really does, because then you can eat. And when you can eat, then you get to the finish line in a much better state.
Are you quite like, you said like starting fast, and I wonder if that was just the energy you were using that would kind of upset your tummy, or are you quite an anxious racer too?
So generally what I would find was that I wouldn't throw up in the UK, but I would throw up in those really big, like really competitive big mountain races over in Europe. Whether that is because typically they start quite fast uphill,
okay,
don't know, or the added competition, which I love. I love racing in those. I want to race lots of really good women. I love that. But I think probably with that brings anxiety and more pressure and all of that sort of stuff too. So yeah, I think it's probably a combination of lots of things. Probably also my salt balance,
interesting.
which is not something that I looked at that in depth for a long time.
think that's quite a recent thing. We've had a chat with the Precision Hydration guys, and I think, yeah, definitely myself, spectacularly under salting.
I actually just had my salt tested this morning, finally.
Oh,
because I'm never in the place where they're doing the testing.
Yeah.
So I finally managed to get that done. So it's less guesswork now. But
are you a heavy salt sweater?
I'm just above their normal.
Okay.
Like their average.
Yeah.
So a little bit saltier, but not super salty. So probably, but for the last few years, I've kind of, because I did the online thing, so I've kind of been going with that. But when I look back at my racing when I was younger and my fueling, I always knew that you had to eat. There was never this I'm going to run long distances on no food or, any of that sort of business. But it was just trying to get it in and keep it in. And I think, there's definitely some salt situations going on there.
I'd love to know, out of all of your races, the UTMB, it doesn't have to be the one that you perform the best in, but is there one that you look back with the fondest memories?
That UTMB where I finally cracked the 28 hours, I wasn't in the top 10 that year. I think I was 12th.
Yeah.
But I ran in the second half of a 100-mile mountain race. I was running. And that feeling is just, for me, that was just incredible, that one, to finally kind of get it right, to be able to run actually really well and pass some people who, I've held in such high regard for my whole running career. To be able to pass them in the second half of 100 was amazing. And the last TDS as well, was pretty incredible. It was an interesting race, but
why do you think you do so well on these courses?
I am good at suffering. I think that I whatever happens, I finish. Is, barring a catastrophe. Yeah. Basically, me and my husband have a rule that I can't pull myself out of a race. He can, or a medic can. Because, there's just always there are going to be times where you're not having a great day, or you're things, you're vomiting or whatever. Yeah. You're still okay. You're still quite capable of moving forward. And he knows that the fallout of me not finishing a race and being disappointed that I haven't finished it for not necessarily a very good reason isn't worth living with. So I think that helps. And because the thing is that to do well in these races, you got to finish.
Yeah.
So many people, particularly things like the UTMB and TDS, a lot happens and a lot of people pull out. Yeah. And, if you have it in your head that you're going to be in a certain place by a certain time, that can really undo you. Whereas if you're just I just do the best that I can and keep moving as well as I can until I get to that finish line and see what happens.
Yeah.
Half the time when I finish a race, I don't even know what place I am until I've finished. Just got to keep moving, get there, look after myself, eat, smile, finish.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Should we talk a bit about nutrition then?
Yeah, let's jump back in, because I know that you're a big advocate of this, Sophie, and so it would be good for people listening to this as they're running along. Perhaps they're munching on a bar or something right now, or they're choosing not to fuel, and it's a big bugbear of mine, and I can't get on my high horse about it. Can you tell us a little bit, as much as you want to share, about how you've changed your fueling over the past few years, what you've been working on, what works for you? And it's fine to talk about, I think, what works with us for fueling, though everybody is different. If it encourages more people to fuel more when they're running, what you found works, and someone might just grab onto a nugget and go, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. I want to run like Sophie, so I'm going to eat. What have you been working on? What's worked? What hasn't worked?
So I've kind of tried, over the years, I've tried everything. As I said, I've always known that fueling is super important. And in the early years, I didn't realize how important it was and how much of a difference it can make to everything. And so I've tried, baby foods. I've tried fueling just off drinks, off gels, off, real food. Unfortunately, I don't seem to produce a lot of saliva for chewing. So real food tends to not work so well for me. But for the last couple of years, I've been predominantly fueling my races off Morton, because I know that, like, because I came from somewhere where I was using a lot of tailwind, and actually I still use a lot of tailwind in training. If I'm only drinking, I know that I'm getting fuel in. And, you know, so I think that's where this kind of started, that, right, I'm just going to at least have carbohydrates in my drink bottles, in both of them, so that if that's the only thing that I can get in, something is going in there. And then kind of Mawson came along, and then it's like, okay, if I can finish 500 mils an hour, that's 80 grams of carbohydrate. So if I can do that, that's like, I'm fueling really well. And so now I've gotten to the point where I can generally, and it depends on race to race, I can generally get through 500 mils of Morton, and then like some high five gels, or some of the, the beta fuel chews. I really like those.
Oh, you like those?
Yeah.
I've heard some things about those. I've not tried them, but
yeah, they're just quite like a nice soft wet consistency.
you're not roasted.
Doesn't sound good, does it? So I've been using those, and then what I do is, whenever I see George, I will have either some sort of fried rice, or potatoes with like really salty potatoes that I can either take with me or just eat from there, just to break up that kind of sweet.
What do you choose if you're at like a European mountain race, anyone that's done one, when you go into the checkpoints, and it's a totally different experience to an English, a UK based race? What do you choose if you get into the checkpoints and you need some fuel?
Nothing. I don't eat anything from the checkpoints. Well, just because I can't guarantee. And again, that might be different now. I've not really retested it, because I found that once I've found something that works, I'm very hesitant to, literally in the last sort of 2 years, I've started to add in a little bit of Coke, you know, like, I'm so wary of adding stuff in that I haven't practiced with, and that is not my normal stuff. That means that I go into checkpoints and I carry all of my Mawson with me. If George isn't there, I don't really eat anything that comes off the tables.
But you can save so much time as well then, because the men tend to like stand at those tables and treat it like a 3-course meal.
That's the best bit. I like hoover my way up.
You see, you're one of those, Gary. You're not only in our way, standing there, but we can take over like 20 guys out of a checkpoint.
I've got a cheesy croissant in my mouth.
Yeah, no, I mean, like even that halfway point in the UTMB Courmayeur, I think my stop in there is like less than 4 minutes.
Woohoo!
Yeah, George and I, honestly, we're like a Formula One team. I run past, throw my bottles at him, grab the new ones, shovel some stuff in my mouth, and then I keep going.
Do you like apologize before the race? You say, apologies, George. When I'm in a checkpoint, we might not be civil to you.
He would be upset at me if I stopped and said anything more to him.
Oh, great.
He takes my racing as seriously as I do. Like, he was saying to me the other day, he actually sets up the aid station so there's nowhere for me to sit down. So there's not even an option for there to be a seat anywhere.
I was just talking about the chair yesterday with a friend. Don't sit down.
Trans-Gran Canaria, he didn't even get out my other food for me, because he's like, it's wet and it's cold, you need to keep moving. All you're having is your gels, and off you go.
George and Brendan would be like, the last race I did, and he crewed for me, and he had to be at the other side of the checkpoint. So I'd come through and I'd be walking, and he'd be like, why are you walking? Keep running to me, run to me. And then he's like, he even does my bottles. I literally stand there and he puts my bottles in, because I can't do that. And then he's like, start running. I'm like, can I just do 20 steps? He's like, no, run.
Classic.
George and Bryn could write the book, the crewing book. Oh, it could be a market.
We'll get him on the podcast. But what I've never tried Morton, and this is not a sponsored show, but is it like literally? I'm so tempted. I see all the Kipchoge and people like that using it. Is it another level up from you? I'm a kind of high five gel person, really. If I'm going to buy gels.
Yeah, so like the Morton gels aren't for me. I find them a very unusual texture. I've had them described in many different ways. I won't ruin them for the people that like them. But the drink is, it's sweet, but it's unflavoured.
Yeah.
So I don't mind. I actually look forward to drinking it. How sad is that? I actually really look forward to drinking Morton when I race, because it is just really easy to get down. It stays down. It's a different for me, it just really, really works. There's no sort of acidity. There's no kind of like, there were other brands that had similar stuff that had artificial sweeteners in them. And like, I just don't, for me, I don't understand that, because I want the sugar. Give me the sugar that's going to make it sweet. But yeah, it's just completely changed my racing. And what I will say is it has 100% changed my recovery.
That was my next question. Tell us about that.
Honestly, like, it is just, I didn't realize that fueling really, really well would have so much of a knock-on effect to being able to run again sooner, and to like not having the same muscle soreness. So over COVID, I was lucky enough to get to do a bit of racing in Italy, and they were like short, fast 20K races, and then in the hills. Yeah, but I was trying to I was managing about 100 grams of carbohydrates an hour.
Okay.
It's a lot, a high intensity.
It is a lot.
Yeah, lots of people in that sort of race would be like, not have anything.
Yeah. And it's very satisfying in the very last bit, when you're like watching the girls fade in front of you, and you're like, yep, I'm glad I took it.
Let's go.
Yeah. But, after even running really hard, just not having the muscle soreness and just being able to go again, the next day, I kind of started to use them as like little training weekends where I would race, and then I would go out and I would do a long run the next day just to be tired on my feet. And, without that extra fueling,
no, you can't, can you? Do you use Morton in your training sort of day to day, or?
I use a mixture of Morton and Tailwind.
Okay.
Because I still really like Tailwind. I still really enjoy it, and it's quite nice to not have Morton all the time.
Yeah. Gary wants to talk about hairdressing now, because as you can tell,
you can tell I need a trim. if only I can talk about hairdressing. But yeah, I suppose I'm a little bit late to this. Eddie and I were chatting before we came on. I thought you were still a hairdresser, but have you left that now and you're a coach, or you still keep your hand in at the salon? As of last week, that was my last day at the salon. I'd worked there for 14 years.
Oh, Sophie!
Wowzers.
Yeah. Do you know what? It doesn't really feel real though, because for the last 5 years, I've been like coming and doing 4 days every 5 or 6 weeks, and so I would normally leave on a Saturday and then not be back for quite some time. So it doesn't feel real that I'm not going back. It's a shame. I really, really love the work, but I'm going to get a whole month of my summer back. Yeah. And the recovery, honestly, I'll go run for 10 hours, but doing those 4 days on my feet, I am knackered afterwards.
But how did that evolve? You must have an amazing boss that you're going to come back every, say, 5 to 6 weeks for 1 week. Explain that process.
I was very lucky. So when we left in the camper van, we kind of burnt ourselves out a bit. I was running a lot. I was working full time. I had a back-to-back column full. I was doing 4 days at the salon, but doing my 2 12-hour days, so that I could do my long run on a Wednesday and then potentially race or drive to the mountains on the weekend. And it kind of was just this unsustainable situation. And so both me and my husband quit our jobs, and my boss walked out, and I said to him, I was like, John, I'm really sorry, but this is what I'm doing. And he just looked at me, stood up and walked out. I was like, okay. But he said to me, look, what can we do to keep you? How can we make this work? Is there a way that, we can keep you coming back? And so we kind of came up with this plan, and it was amazing. It was really tricky with the COVID. And that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back in the end. But those first sort of 2 or 3 years where I was just dipping in, coming and doing, 4 days, wearing a bra, putting some makeup on, pretending I was like a real girl. Yeah. And then I'd go back to my life in the mountains.
Yeah, awesome. That sounds cool. But yeah, life in the mountains and van life. I think so many of us, I'm a bit of a weekend warrior. I'll rock up the lakes on a Friday night, and I see all these VW campers in the laybys. Pretty envious. What does van life look like for you?
Yeah, so that's what we were like, you know, we were like dashing around every weekend. And when we first decided to go, we couldn't decide on where we wanted to be. We were like, maybe we should rent somewhere in Annecy or Chamonix, and it was like, we just didn't want to be in one place. And so it kind of went from just throwing a mattress into the back of a van to both of our jobs still employing us, so we could afford to actually build one that was more habitable. And so, I just cannot tell you the freedom of it. Like, I don't think I've felt that freedom since I was 5, to just go, we don't know where we're going to go. We don't know what we're going to do. We're just going to drive off into the sunset. And, you know, I remember being terrified when we first left, because it's like, what are you doing? You know, you're like leaving. You're leaving.
Well, that's got to become the normal, hasn't it? I know you're probably used to it now, but changing your normal is quite daunting for anybody.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrifying. But you know, we were always lucky enough to go, look, if we needed to, we could always just go back to New Zealand, or we could come back to London, or, you know, we're very lucky that we've kind of both got jobs where we could go back to if we needed to. That's then, I mean, now everybody works remotely. It's just kind of like, before we used to be the weird ones. Now it's just completely normal.
How would you downsize though? You know, you come from a house in London to van life. Where does it all go?
So there's a storage locker in London with our whole house in it. Because we only thought we were going to do it for 6 months. So we're like, we'll put all of our, you know, furniture. I mean, there's like outdoor furniture in there. There's all of my like kitchen utensils. There's an ice cream maker. Honestly, it's going to be really exciting when we finally do get back into a house. But yes, we have one there. And then we have a storage locker in Chamonix, which has all of our sporting equipment. And then we also currently have another one in Barcelona, which has another round of sporting equipment, because we're down in the Pyrenees.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so although we have downsized and we're like, live like a, you know, carefree camper life, it's like there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
it does sound awesome, doesn't it, Eddie? I'd love a bit of that.
I would love it, but I'm not sure. How do you cope with the slight containment of it? Like, do you ever like, I just need space, George, just give me space? I suppose you go for a run.
We spend like 90% of our life outside.
Okay.
So it's, you know, when we first left, it took a little bit of getting used to, but because we were less stressed, you're just nicer to each other.
Yeah.
You know, like you know, and even now, like if you wake up and you're like having a bad day, you kind of just let that person have their bad day, and you just try and like do some nice things for them. But you know that it's not like when we would have a bad day and we were working full time in London, when you then have like this extra kind of pressure put from every angle to kind of keep your shit together. So it's, yeah,
it's taking away some of those sort of like outside interferences, isn't it? So that you can just breathe. Are you in the van now, foreseeable future?
Yeah, we are. I couldn't tell you how long we're going to be in the van for.
Go with it.
It could be, you know, 2 more years. It could be 5 more years.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. See where Quinton wants you to go. Let his wheels do the turning. Talking about like what's going to happen next. What have you've got a big adventure coming up this summer, something new for you.
I'm so excited.
Tell us what you're doing, and tell us a little bit, because some people won't even know what this race is. Tell us.
So it's called the Tour De Jong, and it is 330 kilometers in the Aosta Valley. So I think, and I might have this wrong, it's like 24,000 meters of uphill.
Oh my goodness me, meters.
We don't need to put a figure on how much uphill, really, do we?
Just a lot. There's a lot. You got 150 hours to finish it, and yeah, I mean, I've run the first 100K twice with friends recceing the route, because I got really sick of recceing the UTMB because I ran it so many times. So I started running the start of the tour instead.
Because it does cross over, because I remember when I ran the Tour de Mont Blanc, I'd see them just after, where was it? Up out of Courmayeur, I think, and then you sort of cross, don't you?
Yeah.
So make sure you go right and not left. And, you know, that's not Are you going to do more of the route? Are you going to wreck it, or is it going to be a surprise?
Yeah, no, I'll definitely. I mean, look, we've got the opportunity to just be in the Aosta, so I would expect that I will probably run every step of it over the summer, because I mean, like, why not? I can get George to, like, even the bits that aren't very nice, or are supposedly not very nice, that are like long straights, I can get him to drop me at one end and go and pick me up at the other.
Yeah. And if it's not part of the race, it'll all be lovely anyway, because those long flat grinds that you hate during a long race will be lovely on fresh legs. It'll be like, I don't know why everybody moans. And it's a bit different from like MDS, because you can actually do it non-stop. There's just life bases, isn't it? Can you tell us a little bit about that? So
there's 6 life bases. You choose how and when you sleep, like how much you sleep. You can't sleep on the trail. So you have to sleep in either refuges or life bases.
I see. Okay.
Just safety wise. But yeah, I mean, for me, like, I know that I can go and run 100 miles in the mountains and get to a finish line. Like, barring some sort of catastrophe, even with a catastrophe, I can probably get there. But for me, this is like a whole other ball game. It's it feels a bit like when I did the MDS. Like, I know I can finish it, but there is just a lot of stuff that I've never experienced before. The longest I've been awake would be the 40 hours. Probably the hardest race, timing wise, would be Diagonal de Fou, Grand Marais Reunion, where it's like far and long, and you sort of start seeing stuff and all that sort of stuff. But to go for 4-5 days,
I can't imagine it.
No, I mean, neither can I. This is the thing. So I've been like absolutely just picking everybody's brains. We just had a last Sportiva team meet, and I'm like, right, all these people who have done.
You've got a good team there.
You need to hit up John Kelly. He's just been busy for a week, hasn't he? So
yeah, I know. We gave him a lift. I was with Sally, and we gave him a lift up, and he was in the back seat, sat in the back seat, and I'm like, John, I have so many questions for you. I think the poor guy was a little bit shocked.
How is your training going to differ over the summer to what it does normally, sort of, if you're looking towards UTMB and TDS?
It's probably not going to be that different. What I've realised as I've gotten older and more comfortable with racing is that I don't need to, I mean, I'm sure I will do some, but like I used to absolutely have to do, 3 really big days back to back in the mountains, just wrecking the UTMB over 3 days, or like, doing the first 100K of the tour over 3 days. But I've realized that they don't make you fitter. That's for sure. They might make you feel more comfortable that you can keep going for that long, but I've got a decade of racing that will tell me that I can keep going for that long. So there will be probably some big days hiking, lots of hiking. And I think that's going to be the real trick for me, is just making sure that I go slow enough that I can eat real food too. So practicing that. And then we might do some stuff on the bike with, because although you can't relate, it's not really healthy to practice sleep deprivation. We might just do some stuff on the bike where I practice taking, like, what it's like to take little power naps, so that the kind of cumulative effect on my body isn't so bad, because I'm not pounding running, but I am able to stay awake and then just have these little naps along the way to see what it feels like to get back up, get back going again, all that sort of stuff.
Will you be okay with that? I know a lot of runners we associate as runners, and then to incorporate walking into training, even though the event requires so much walking, it's always a kind of a bit of a wrestling mentally, for myself at least.
Oh, really? No, yeah. I'm like a professional hiker.
Great.
Like I've like never run 100 miles. Like I have never done a race that involved running for that long. Maybe at some point need to try it, because I like do races where you hike most of the time, it's either you're either hiking up or you're running down hills.
But this is the crazy thing. I think I'm in for Lakeland 100, and there'll be a lot of walking there, but all of the training will be pretty much running. But come race day, I just won't be used to walking at all.
No, I was about to say, do you think maybe that you should?
Specific. Look at Sophie and me, like we've tilted our heads and we're going,
I know.
Gary, this is where
I say that, I won't be running up like say Black Sail Pass and places like that. I know that. Definitely.
Honestly, I remember first long Transgran Canary I did, and I was trying to run up the hill at the end, and this girl walked past me, and I was just like, man, yeah. And when you're in places like Switzerland too, like they are so fast at hiking. You just go out into the mountains, and people are like, George and I often will try running to put distance between us and hikers, and often we don't manage to put much.
Yeah, and you just stop, you stop naturally to have a little chat, and they come around the corner and you're like, I'm here running, this is so embarrassing, and you're about 80 as well.
Like, God damn it, I thought I'd shook you off.
I think that's probably one of the biggest things that's changed for me in my racing, living in the mountains as opposed to living in London, is that like my downhill was always okay and my flat running was always okay, but I was never as fast hiking. And I think that just being in the mountains and hiking a lot more, and also I think learning to not run the downhill so hard that you then can't hike the uphills, that really changed for me living in the mountains. It makes such a huge difference in the amount of time that you save going fast on those downhills as opposed to the amount of time you can save on the uphills. I mean, you might save 30 seconds and you've trashed your quads.
Yeah, 100%.
You feel great because you've passed loads of people, but they're all going to pass you on the next uphill. Whereas
you must find that on the UTMB and the TDS, like the first couple of big downhills, the men must come like screaming past, and you'll be like, "I'm going to see you. Look, I'm just going to see you in like however long it takes. Could be 10 hours, but I will promise I'll see you again." Because if they're passing you, then they're going too fast downhill. Basically, you should have that on a T-shirt. If you're running past me.
Yeah, I'll see you.
Talking about men running past you, let's go a little bit into like your coaching and how you are a big advocate about getting women into trail running, etc. So let's just talk a little bit about how you've gone from hairdressing to coaching. How did that come about? Not, I imagine, probably unique person follow that career path.
You know what, over the years, people always sort of said to me, "Oh, have you ever thought about coaching?" And, I think because I was running so much and working so much, the idea of trying to manage someone else's plan.
You're like, I'm just going to get clean knickers on today.
I was like, I can just about function. Like, there is no adding someone else's stuff in here. And it wasn't until we left in the van and I suddenly had space and time to kind of get a bit bored. That actually was he coaching? I think he was coaching me at the time. Robbie suggested that I should think about coaching, because I've always coaching is people, right? And that's what I do. Hairdressing is people. It's a very similar.
You love people. You love the people.
And so kind of just got into it because he suggested it. And honestly, it's just amazing. I love being on people's journeys like that. Obviously I enjoy all of them doing well, but there are moments when someone just suddenly believes in themselves a little bit more. It's not necessarily the result or whatever it is. It's, the woman who's suddenly like, "Oh, I just wanted to do 150 miler," to now going, "I'm going to do 4 of them," or I want to go and race overseas, or, to just see that growth in someone and to be a part of that is so special.
Have you got any ideas how we could encourage more women into running?
Oh, of course I do. What I would really love to see. Hang on a second.
Oh, okay.
What do you know what I would really love to see is I would love to see a dedicated number of places go to women in ballots. So, for example, UTMB, what is it? 15% go to
just let all the women in. If you want to do it and you've qualified, you can do it because you're going to finish. You're going to finish.
They have like 15% women. Even if they said we are going to fill 20% of the race with women, and then all of the rest will put into the ballot. Yeah. I'm not even asking for half. I'm just asking for a little bit more, and it would just start to redress the balance issue that we have in our sport.
I don't understand why it's an issue. Men have run the show for like ever. And now a lot of men anyway are kind of crying about women wanting some kind of equity between the sexes. It's like, well, get over
because
it.
I mean, you know, they feel like they've worked hard for their place to be in that ballot. And I get that, I really do. But unfortunately, you know, we probably need to swing the other way for a while. And I mean, God, do you know what else I would love? Careful, you've got me on a high horse now. Imagine if we took the coverage that men's sports get and gave it to women's sports just for 6 months.
Bryn and I had a massive argument about this because he said, yes, but there's no money in the women's. No,
yeah, but why is there no money in it?
Them. And I was like, yeah, but that's because they don't cover them. So you've got to get out of that side of the argument and say, well, we're going to, unless you sponsor the women's sport with as much money as the men's sport, we're not going to reach, that's when we can't be banned, Sophie, because I was like, I'm going to have a cup of tea and move away from you because you know what the Ironman World Championships triathlon have done the first time this year is that because they have a set number of races that they can have for safety, etc. They've they're trialing women on one day and men on the other day so that they can have equal number of women to men and so that the women get to race their own race without the men. Because as you can imagine, when I did it, it was 2,500 people in the sea all at once. And I tell you what, if you get hit over the head by a man or a man pulls you in that swim, you have not got the strength as a woman to be able to swim over a 6-foot guy. It's terrifying. And then on the bike, you are surrounded by men. You're not allowed to draft. The guys are more powerful that come past you. You have to drop back. You're basically in a men's race trying to race as a woman, and it's impossible. And then at the end, you're passing them on the marathon because they've all gone off too fast. So they're trialing a women's race and a men's race, and that also means that more women can race. Because there's more slots. So just little that's a huge change, but little changes like that, like you said, for the ballot. So because also things like UTMB, that it takes a lot to qualify and just to get in the ballot, and then women have these periods, like if you do get in and then you decide to have a family or pregnant, you lose everything. But the men don't have that, and they don't understand that. When I had Evie, my third, I lost everything. I lost all my grading, all my ranking, all my points, and I had to restart and build back up. I know people are banging the drum about pregnancy deferrals and all that, but we have to keep banging the drum about everything.
100%. Like it's 2022 and we're banging the drum about that. Drives me nuts, but the UTMB always had a injury deferral, but pregnancy was not on there.
It's mad.
It just blows my mind that there can be just so little care taken to try and support women in the sport that happens.
Is there infrastructure behind the scenes?
Yeah.
So I don't know if their infrastructure behind the scenes is all men, or I wonder how could they?
No, it's predominantly run by women.
It's just making no sense whatsoever.
What about out on the trail, Sophie? What about men actually doing the races?
What can I do that would make it easy?
Gary, I can imagine you can't do anything. You're perfect.
They elbow somebody off the course.
You know what? Like 99% of the men that I race with are amazing. Are absolutely amazing. You're always going to have, and actually I have to say there is less and less of this, but I've noticed less and less of this behavior over the last few years. But like I've had races where men just won't let me pass, and they could be in a completely different race. I'm like at the pointy end of the field and they're in a completely different race, and it is just some sort of affront to them that I need to get past. And I've had to have other men then kind of like stand up for me, yell at that man, push me past him, we're not in the same race, sure, we might be racing each other, but I'm not racing you if you're a man out on the course. I'm racing the woman who I probably can't see because there's only 5 of us, but that's who I'm racing, So I think men are predominantly great, and I think getting out of the way of women who are coming through is really helpful.
The other thing is a bit of respect. And I noticed for the first time, just like you, I've noticed it's changed a lot. And I think men are more aware now that if a woman's, you just can't get away with it now. If a woman's trying to get past you or whatever, they're a lot more aware that you are racing and it doesn't matter. But I was knocked really hard during the Saint-Élion race by a man coming downhill too fast, and he bashed me. He tripped me over, and the other guys went mental at him and were like, there was no need for that. You did not need to pass her so fast. So what are you doing? And that was the first time that like other men had like, I felt quite like, yeah, you got it. And he was like, oh, sorry. I was like, yeah, little too late. You're
too late, yeah.
But I think other men supporting, like if they see that, going, excusez-moi, monsieur, move your butt. Just I think Gary, like you said, just being aware of it is a huge step in the right direction.
And also I think just being really mindful about what you say, because some little flippant comment from you could absolutely be devastating for a woman. Like, it's so easy to do, and I've certainly had it. I know most people have had it. Unbelievably, one of my athletes the other day had people hurling, like a group of guys hurling abuse at her on the trail.
Oh my goodness me!
It just blows my mind that that's still happening.
This is a race. I know there's no account for it anywhere, but was it a race or she was out training?
No, she was just out training.
Crazy. So it's as a man, I literally have nothing to deal with like that. I can't imagine what it's like. Even my wife, she'll come back from a run and tell me from time to time when she's had abuse.
As a woman, it's frightening. It disturbs you. It ruins your run. It possibly ruins your day. It'll put you off going out, on that route again. There's a road around here I don't run anymore because a car followed me. He was probably just looking for an address. He wasn't aware, but it still was like, it shook me. And then, I think just being aware. Sophie, where can people find you if they're interested in shouting you out for some coaching?
So on the, I coach predominantly for Centurion. So on the Centurion website. And then, if you want to follow the journey, Instagram is always the place of choice.
See where
but your Instagram's great. Oh, the van life.
I know where Sophie's going, what she's doing, possibly before she does.
Cool. Yeah, get along and follow. Well, thanks for your time today, Sophie. But before we let you go, I've got 6 actually. So maybe we've got 6 questions, 6 quick questions.
I've got 7 there, Henry. It's meant to be the quick 5.
Oh, I've got 7. God damn it. I've got 7 on there now. Right.
You haven't done any of them, so you can.
Do we go in with a 7? That's a heavy question.
Yeah, go in with number 7. Go on.
Well, when I was, I had a bit of van life when I was backpacking around Australia, and I unwittingly parked in a dogging hotspot. And the things I was doing in the van seemed to interest people within the car. Whatever signal.
Oh, what were you? That's not on.
Maybe the window was like half down or something. I don't know what.
You somehow unwittingly signaled to them that you were available.
Yeah, well, I don't know what these signals are, but yeah, any van life mistakes for yourself?
We have not had that situation. What have we had? Yeah, do you know what, we've been pretty all right. We've only had one person try and get into the van while we've been sleeping in it overnight. Predominantly most of the sticky situations have been in the UK, actually. We kind of expected that we would go over to Europe and, I don't know, these motorway services and all of that, but no, it's been absolutely fine. But yeah, no, not too many sticky situations.
Okay. I just have to say, actually, if you're in semaphore in Australia, just be careful where you park.
Keep your curtains shut.
Yeah. Anything you miss from New Zealand in particular?
I mean, my family, obviously. And there's like a bunch of food.
Yeah. That's what Gary wants. He's like, family.
Expect to go deep.
Yeah, no, it's we're very good at pies there, salt and vinegar kettle fries. There's really good cookies. There's like lots of delicious junk food that I do miss from New Zealand.
So, I made a massive error again when I was backpacking. I went to New Zealand, but I only went to the North Island, thinking that one day I'll go back. I know, what an idiot. What a massive idiot.
Yeah, you have to go back.
I thought I'd go back again, but not yet anyway. Well, I know you're going to experience this. Are you prone to hallucinations? And if so, have you got any good stories?
So I tend to see people.
Oh,
and,
no.
Oh, no, it's okay. No, it's fine. They're like normally like hugging or like sometimes like animal like portraits.
Ooh.
But the second, third UTMB, I remember running down into town, and I'd just come off the trail, and I mean it was probably 29 hours or 30 hours, something like that, and I ran past this what I thought was a restaurant, ran past this restaurant, and it was like packed, full of people, lights on, people are dancing, like just, and I'm like, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, man, those guys are having an amazing time. Keep on going, turn around, completely dark.
Oh my God.
It was just like someone's house, all the lights were out, nothing was there, there was nothing.
That's giving me goosebumps.
Oh,
It's a freaky movie.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a scary one. No,
I don't find hallucinating scary. I'm just very aware that it's my body just trying to slow me down. It's my brain trying to slow me down. So
yeah.
I almost quite enjoy it.
Okay, that's good.
It's like
that just bodes well.
What is that? That's people. What are they doing out here this night?
I do like that. It sort of keeps your brain active a bit when you're like, what is that? And you sort of know, is that real?
Yeah.
And then your brain tries to make it to something and you're like, I know it's not a pig, but it really is a pig. And
I do remember
it's gone.
running in Reunion. And I would say this is a good tip for everybody. Wherever you go to race, find out what the local wildlife actually is. Just in case you start. I remember I saw a massive snail in Reunion, which wasn't there.
Wasn't there? I was like, should we know about the wildlife?
You can give your sponsor a shout out for this question. Your favourite running shoes?
La Sportiva. Do you know what? I would be running in them whether they sponsor me or not. I went through like a bunch of different shoes after the MDS and found Sportivas and kind of then just have run in them ever since. They work for me.
Out of the brand, out of the range, what's your favourite shoe? What's your UTMB shoe choice?
Oh, I've run it in a bunch of different Sportivas. So everything from
28-hour one in.
Oh, what did I run that in? Maybe the Bushidos?
Because you don't need a huge amount of grip if it's a dry.
No, you don't. If it's not a dry one, though.
You're looking at a different shoe, would you? Would you go for like a more mutant sort of shoe if it was wet?
So my new favourite at the moment is the Lichen, because they're like, I think that's probably what I'll do the tour in. They are a mutant sole with just a bit more like, they're not quite as hard as the mutants. I really love the mutants, but these are just a bit, they feel like they've got a bit more cushioning and they're a bit softer.
Okay, you pulled up at night in your van, you piggybacked someone's Wi-Fi. What are you cranking up on Netflix? What's going on?
Oh, gosh. Could be a bit of everything, to be honest. What are we watching on Netflix?
Bridgerton?
Yeah, I've been watching Bridgerton, yes. Although that's always quite hard to get George involved in that one.
Yeah, that too. I had to watch that solo. Bryn was like, I'm not doing another season.
No, what else have we been watching lately? We're quite a fan of a cartoon because I often find that I need things that aren't like super engaging. Like if you've done a lot of exercise, like George and I spend a lot of time climbing and skiing and cycling, and I don't always want to have to sit down and actually
follow a story. So I don't care if it's just got images and I can just stare at it.
Yeah, vaguely things happen. So we're quite a big fan of Archer. Don't know if you guys have watched that.
Oh no, that's in there.
It's good. Spy cartoon.
I like a spy.
Yeah, he drinks a lot and it's great.
Adventure Time, I think that's my favourite cartoon.
Oh, I loved Adventure Time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, next question is, okay, yeah, you parked up again. Where would you negotiate or point your door? Would you prefer a sunrise or a sunset for your van?
Sunset.
Sunset, awesome.
I'm just more likely to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like I do love that about the summer. Like, you know, you can get up later and still see the sun rise. But now that we're not, you know, having to get up and commute into work, and I just prioritize my sleep too much.
Yeah, I would be exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's
a bit
I happily have 10 hours a night.
Yeah. Oh, the dream.
The dream. That is the dream. All right,
Sorry.
last one. See, I've got 7 questions here.
Oh,
I'm right in thinking you've had a GB vest in the past. So I'm curious, if England were competing against New Zealand in a sporting event, who do you cheer for?
New Zealand.
Hey.
Take that vest back.
I love the UK, and I'm very, very grateful that they let me run for them. But, you know, New Zealand still, it's who I am.
Yeah.
You've got to stick by it. My kids are the same. You know, they're French, but Bryn's like, you know, when it comes to it, England versus France for Six Nations, he's like, they start singing the French national anthem, and he's like, what? Then they don't know the English national anthem, and he's like, oh my god, with these kids.
So always New Zealand, and then anyone playing Australia.
Yeah. Awesome.
Sophie, thank you so much for sharing. Love the story about your journey and all the different stories about UTMB that could talk to you for hours. Best of luck with your summer of fun training for the tour. Whatever happens at the tour, you can have a great time preparing yourself for it. If you don't follow Sophie over on Instagram, go and find her. She all about van life, her everyday ups and downs, training, some funny stories in there. You'll see George. We will follow you and hopefully maybe have a chat after the tour, hear all about it.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Amazing. Look forward to it. Thanks for having me, guys. It's been fun.
Yeah, thanks for your time today. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Sophie, for coming on the show. Good luck with all your training this week. If you're an Instagram fan, big fan like I am, you can follow Sophie over on her handle is at Sophie Amy Grant. See her daily adventures. She normally posts something every day about what she's up to, where she's running, the adventures that she does, or just life generally in the van, if you're thinking that might be something you're interested in. And we look forward to following it Tour De Jong and then hopefully come back on and telling us all about it. Definitely on my bucket list, that race, Gary. Tour De Jong. Yeah.
She really is good Instagram follow, folks. So yeah, check her out.
Coming up this week, the UK Ultra 50k and 100k on the South Downs. There used to be a big prize purse for this, and I've been scouring their webpage trying to find out how much it was because I thought it would be quite interesting, but I can't find out what it is. But I've got a few people going down to do those races. Best of luck if you're doing those races. Not sure what the weather's going to be like. Don't think it's going to be quite as toasty as it's been.
And also in the northeast, or Yorkshire, actually, it's not northeast. Shouldn't say that.
No.
It's the Hardmoors 110 and the Hardmoors 200 taking part. I'm not too sure where the 200 starts from, but the 110 is Filey to Helmsley. So yeah, best of luck, everybody.
Hardmoors 200, Gary. Is a 200-mile race ever be in your wish list?
I don't really see the need for it. 100 for me just had a nice ring to it.
Yeah.
I never say never. You know, the older you get, the slower you get, then these longer races seem to, if you're feeling competitive, that is. And, you know, crikey, I don't even know if I could complete a 200 race. It's such a
no, you couldn't. You'd start whining about something.
But it's a lot, you know, 200 then. So anecdotally, you'd like to finish 100, trail 100 at least in a say 24 hours. That would be it. Seems to be a good goal. A lot of people aspire to. So at least you're going to be two full days plus the rest doing a 200 mile. I don't know if I'd fancy that.
Over on Facebook, we've been running a competition to come up with a new question for our intro of the podcast. Some good ones, some terrible ones.
They're all good, Eddie. Just some maybe were a bit that we probably would weave into our normal interviews.
Bit deep to start off with. We need something light because Gary and I, well, I'm not, but Gary's absolutely flapping. His heart rate's about 150. And he's like, oh no, Eddie, don't make me start the conversation. Jonathan Sink, you didn't win, but we loved your comment. We couldn't possibly end meeting, otherwise we wouldn't have any interviews. But you said to start the interviews with, how are you and how's your dog? And then if they say I don't have a dog, we just end the meeting and that's it. That's the chat. Actually, like, most people do have a dog. They nearly always do appear on Zoom, don't they? Yeah, that was hilarious, Jonathan. But we might lose our jobs in that one. So do you want to do the winner?
Yes, for me, and I think it was both of us actually, Eddie. We both enjoyed this one. Chloe Brooks, what's the view out of your window? I think that struck tone perfect for an opening question.
Yeah, we've got, well, who's our next interview? Let me have a quick glance at our diary. Next week, Boff and Dan next week.
Cool. Oh, we got two views.
Two people. What's your view out of your window? So we're going to weave it in a little bit into, we're going to keep Have You Been for a Run Today, but we're going to weave that into our opening gambit. So you have to listen in the next few weeks to hear it. And Chloe sent us a message and we shall wing you some Chia Charge goodies to say thank you so much for entering and well done. Right, Gary, what's happening? What's occurring? You keep saying in this podcast that you need coffee and peanuts.
I do need, yeah.
I mean, I've dragged him, listeners, I have dragged him through this podcast this week.
Even more than usual.
Even more than usual.
Oh, well, I think the way I'm feeling, it's got to be a down week. I just need a little reduction. I'm not too sure if it's going to be a down week in everything, elevation, distance, what have you. I might I'll try. I'm definitely not going to do a workout today. I just need an extra day. So I'm going to try the workout tomorrow, which I think it's either kilometer reps or 30 minutes.
Never do a workout after. I have a whole week of easy running.
Yeah, but then it's like I said, I'm not training for that race. There's the consequence.
Well, that doesn't matter. It's taken a lot out of you and you're tired.
Well, maybe I'll lean on Zwift this week. I don't know. We'll see how it's.
It's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. Don't keep hitting your head against a brick wall if you're tired, though.
No. I'm not. I was supposed to run.
Oh, I'm not good at it. I can do it. This is classic again. I'm not actually. No. Now you've taken that workout. I'm not actually as tired as I said I was.
I was supposed to run yesterday, just an easy run with Rex, and I cut it short by about 5 miles. I just
oh my! Well, how long was the run? If you cut it,
it was like
short?
6 miles. 6 miles. 6.5 miles.
1 mile.
What's that? Sorry.
You cut a 6 mile short. A 6 mile run short of 5 miles, so you ran 1 mile.
Well, yeah, if I run home, it's about 1.5 miles. If I take the loop, it's about 6-ish. So I just didn't do the loop. I went straight home instead because I just thought there's nothing. The risks
gained.
No.
It's better to be fully recovered. Again, this is a drum I beat. To have this week easier and to be fully recovered and go again next week. You'll get a lot more out of yourself than to be tired but force, and then you're still tired, and then it just makes this podcast quite painful.
Well, I'm not enjoying getting older, Eddie. That is a fact. These past 2 years, I used to run all the miles. And anyone who knows me, I would run twice a day, 3 times a day, multiple workouts, and I seem to just be super resilient. But yeah, these past 2 years, I just feel so tired.
So every night, Bryn and I go, so tired.
Yeah.
What's happened to us? And then we do Lisa this. We like look back and go, do you remember when we used to do that? We used to do that, like, oh, I couldn't have the energy. I find just unpacking a dishwasher is like a list on my to-do list.
If someone talks about like going out for a night, it's like, oh, the
anxiety. No.
She go get drunk or something.
I did have to message. I WhatsApped our babysitter to book her for a party we've got in July, and she's like, "Oh, your annual night out? Yes, I'm free."
It's that time of year. It's like car service. But my friend's doing the 110 actually. Chris, a friend of mine, and I've offered to support him. So I'll be doing some miles with him over the weekend with that. And
try not to do an overnight shift because I reckon that kills you too. You've done quite a lot of early risers.
Yeah, I'm not too sure actually. Me, Neil and I are meeting him in Saltburn. I'm not too sure if he'll need runners by then, or even if he's allowed runners by then. I'm not too sure what the rules are with it. But yeah, Saltburn's going to be tea time, so I think we're going to be going into the night again. But I'm looking forward to that. You know, my goodness me, Chris shared some miles with me on my going around attempt, so I'm in debt to Chris.
Pay the paper.
And a bit of poll research. We chatted before we started recording. I do like the idea of running pure, but I'm also thinking I need something to lean on.
Yeah, I mean, you know what they say. Once you use them, you know. I love my poles, but of course, I do a lot of sports with the poling action required, so I'm quite used to them. Lecky micro trail poles. That's what you want. Don't go into the. They fold down. They're super light. They've got a really good stabbing point at the end for anybody that's annoying you.
But I've got to be quick. Lake 100 is rapidly approaching, so I can't.
Well, I was telling you, if you want to use them, they are not. Funnily enough, I was reading about them this morning about like how the versus, you know, carrying them. Obviously, got to use them. Don't just carry.
They've probably got a pop-up shop at registration now.
Just grab them, then you'll be fine. Just work out the little button bits and you've got to work on your upper body so that because obviously your upper body isn't that.
Nothing wrong with my upper body, Eddie.
All right, easy, Tiger. Again, before everybody was flexing his biceps, going, "There's nothing wrong with my upper body." Almost
as good as John Shield, though. Wowzers. Yeah. Even I was in awe of John.
Yeah, definitely. You're going to use poles. Let's get them out now. Get some sessions done. Wouldn't know why you wouldn't, but you do. Yeah, if you use them and you know how to use them, and your upper body is strong, they make such difference. I do find that they slightly make my knees a little bit sore because I think I over pole and then
that's the last thing I want. God.
Yeah. So, but once I've done a couple of weeks with them going into the summer, I love them. I mean, if you stood on a start race here without them, you would be the only one. Everybody uses them, don't they? Yeah. Go on, try them. Let's have a great chat about your poling antics.
Watch this space. How about yourself?
Oh, a little bit more jogging, a little less walking, organic, don't push it. I definitely had a breakthrough. I think the 40% hiking was definitely seems of her. Definitely, like Bryn went, oh my God, because it's been so massive. I kid you not, Gary, the back of my ankle has been like a knuckle, like huge. And it's just slow. It's just like suddenly the last week, Bryn was like, you almost can't tell your fat ankle from your normal one now. It's suddenly like, but has been, I think I've been going on long enough now. Come on, it's time for it to start getting better. So I'm really hoping it just carries on.
It's good news.
I hope it's good news. So a bit more jogging. I'd love to be able to get up to like half an hour back jogging and be back in that state where you're not thinking about it. But that's a couple of weeks. But as long as we're moving forward, I'm happy with that. Yeah. I'm getting the I haven't got a race. I haven't got anything planned. So I'm going to start thinking about how I need to be in the spine. Think backwards. I need to be in spine shape in December. And I want to have had like 3 months of like really consistent training into that, like hours, able to have done hours and hours for 12 weeks. So I'm almost thinking, do I not want to have any races and just get myself?
Are there any because over here there's still pretty much there's still a few low key races where you can just enter.
I can just go do all my local 50-40 Ks around here.
Yeah,
but they're all pretty brutal. They wipe me out for a week afterwards, definitely. Yeah. So I'm like, shall I just dedicate my life myself, or shall I put 100-miler in like in August? Do I need some suffering, some deep suffering? Do I go out in the Pennine Way for like 10 days and go and do it? Really get specific. So these questions are all going around my head, but it's really nice to have these questions because 2 weeks ago I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to run again. I'm just going to have just going to be in Crocs for the rest of my life with one thick cankle. So it's nice to be able to be thinking, what can I do?
I like the idea of that August Pennine Way adventure.
Anyone up for it? Anyone come with me? Not if you're a serial killer.
My legs would be wrecked after 100. I might be.
Oh, that'd be perfect. Can you imagine the whining? Eddie, wait.
Eddie, balls.
I'll wait at the cafe, Gary.
Yeah, mine's a cappuccino.
We love a 5-star review over here, and we found a good one, and I'm afraid Gary is insisting on reading it. So here we go, Gaza.
Well, thanks so much. Nick's Frizz left this review a little while ago, actually, about a month ago. It's taken us a little while with birthday shout-outs to catch up, but it is hopefully still his favourite podcast. Actually, I'm saying Nick's. It doesn't have to be a boy. I'm saying he, but hopefully their favourite podcast. Started listening about 6 weeks ago after searching for something to keep me going in for final long run for Manchester Marathon training, and she enjoyed the week so much they'd gone back all the way to the beginning, wowzers, and worked their way through them all. Absolutely loving the wittering of the hosts and the inspiring guests. Keep up the good work. Gutted I'm going to have to now wait a whole week between episodes for my next one. I used to feel like if I loved the podcast, I'd go back and then you'd catch up and it'd be like, no.
What's your go-to? Thanks, Nick. That's very kind. And if you want to pop round, you can come and listen to Wittering. You can unpack the dishwasher or do the laundry. Just listen to me most of the day, wittering on to the kids. What's your go-to podcast at the moment, Gary?
He's been a bit sketchy, but I really love the Adam Buxton podcast.
I love the Adam Buxton one. If I told you the story of when I was on a long run and I download, because the 3Gs dodge once you get up the hill. So I downloaded one where he went on a ski holiday and it ended up, have I told you this?
No.
Sorry. And it ended up that he'd been given the ski holiday by mates of mine and he comes to Morzine. So I listened from a whole long run about him and he's out skiing and he does it live and then he goes to a restaurant. And I was running under the chairlift and he said, we're sitting on this chairlift and we're going up and he comes over with the drummer or the singer from Travis and they go, oh my God. And I was like, oh my God, this is bizarre that you were here. And this was last summer. Yeah, he's one of my favorites. I found another good one. Let me just quickly find it. I listen to terrible ones that Bryn always goes, oh my God. I do like the Rob Beckett and Josh Widdicombe Parenting Health. You won't like that one, but it is hilarious. They say really terrible things. But I did find another one called Walking with My Dog. And she talks to all different, they go on a dog walk. She goes on a dog walk with celebrities with dogs. But I do listen to podcasts for a bit, sometimes for a bit of escapism. Yeah. Sometimes I put them on if I can't concentrate and I just need.
I love a podcast when I'm running. My other favourite one is the Bob Mortimer podcast, Atletico Mints, but that's quite out there with your humour.
Walking the Dog with Emily Dean, that's what it's called.
What about your favourite running, apart from ours, obviously, second favourite running podcast?
I really like running podcasts.
Oh my God, delete this bit out.
The thing is, I do a running podcast. I interview people for a running podcast. That's about 5 hours of my life. I write Training Peaks plans and deal with a lot of clients all about running and then I run myself. So sometimes the podcasts, I just need it not to be about.
Yeah, not running.
I go for things like, there's one, I'm just looking through the moments that made me. I like podcasts like that, which aren't normally sometimes just like endurance. I like an endurance sport one. Yeah. People have done like climbing or stuff like that. And then I can apply it to running. And then I go on to run and go, listen to this. And then this guy said this. And then this guy said that. I like that sort of podcast. I find some of the, especially American running podcasts, a little dry maybe and a little bit. No. Have you got a good one? You tell me a good one.
Well, and it's not always running actually, but there's usually a very strong running thread running through it. But Billy Yang's pretty good storyteller.
Oh, yes. But that's a story, isn't it? It's not going into like the science. Oh, another one I like. This is someone else might like. This is called How They Train. It's an Australian guy. It's triathlon based, but it talks to all sorts of triathletes about their mainly just their weekly training. It's just incredible, and it's just oh my gosh. I either like a real professional knows what they're talking about, or something completely different. The middle ground. Anyway. I just wish I could listen to ours, Gary, basically all the time, but...
Yeah, I do. It's quite strange the amount of time I listen to us.
Anyway, if you've got any good podcasts that you like listening to, give us a shout out. We're always looking for new podcasts. Thank you to Chia Charge for continuing to support the show, the mice, sending bars to guest competition winners and keeping Gary and I fueled in our many adventures, and generally being an all-round super support to everyone on the trails. No doubt they'll be out. You might see them out on the hard moors.
They did keep me fueled at the weekend, actually.
Oh, it's nothing. Oh, I can't wait. I did drop Tim a little WhatsApp going, the mouse says ignore my Chia Charge bars. And he did say, I'm on it. You think he's forgotten. If you see him, just give him a poke this
I
weekend.
might see him, actually. Yeah, that's a good point.
That was episode 91. I'm Eddie Sutton.
And I'm Gary Thwaites.
And let's run to the hills.